thought it's time to show you guys what I'm training on. Asked the instructor if I can wear a GoPro on my head, hands-free. He said no, we don't like this. So you cannot have a cell phone or any kind of food. But that's what it is. So I think it's, yes, it's a John Deere 444K. So articulating loader with this bucket here, and at the end of Monday, Wednesday, Friday we have to grease it, and the grease guns are in this little shed. Loaders actually better. Excavators, guys have to grease them, and I think dozers, they have to grease them daily. And so I just went around, the guy showed me where all the nipples were, so I greased it, no big deal. Oh yeah, and this is what I was looking at. See, it actually tells you 2.5 cubic yards or 1.9 cubic meters. But that's the machine. So just steering wheel, joystick on the right. Basically, your left hand is always on your steering wheel, and the right hand is on the joystick. And this is the only rock truck we have. So I think that's what I'll be loading tomorrow. And that's in the distance, that's that windrow, that fresh dirt. That's what I've been doing today. So taking it from there, putting in a new pile, and then after put it back and clean up the area. So now you know. Cool. Well, I'm at the school after the weekend in Calgary, and this time I came very well prepared because I'm not gonna go home next weekend, so I have my accordion with me. I brought my kettlebell and my 45-pound plates. So I got up at 4:30 today, boys and girls. 4:30, and left, stopped for coffee at a gas station, and then it took about an hour to get here. It's dark, I'm driving in the dark, and I don't understand why I cannot switch on my high beams, you know, like when there's no cars. You know, I was doing like 110, 115, and the high beams don't work. And then I realized that this thing has so many sensors, you know. Basically, even if you turn it on, later I figure out, so the problem was the sensors. If it senses outside light, even let's say there's a bunch of light posts, right, and it's very bright, like, you know, sometimes you're driving and all of a sudden there's an intersection and there's a bunch of light posts, it just turns off, you know. And so I turned off. Now I'm in auto mode, so I switch it like this, and I was able to, you know, I think it push it forward, this stalk here, and it turns on the high beams. But yeah, but so far so good. Very happy with this car. I already have probably 5,000 clicks on it, almost. And let's say I was here because they told us to be here at 6:45. All right. So I was here like at 6:30, and I saw guys park here, so I waited for them to start moving because I didn't see any lights anywhere. It was still dark. And then we spent probably 30-40 minutes inside the you know, orientation room. That's where the actual guys that train us, you know, my name was not on the board for some reason, so I went to the office, and the office lady was there. I said, today is supposed to be my first day in the machine, but the instructor says he does not see my name on the board. And she checked her paperwork. She said, no, this is your first day. I said, yeah, I know, because last week was all classroom. I only have 3 weeks, right? So now it's gonna be every day I have 5 hours in the machine, and then there's an hour break, and then 1 to 3 we do classroom. And so we did orientation, of course, talked about safety, stuff like that. And all the guys in the class, they're all taking the big program. Like, unbelievable. Like $25,000 or $26,000 for what is it, 12 weeks. But the problem is it's 12 weeks, so by the time they're finished, it's gonna be winter, right? And my trainer or instructor today, like, there was a younger guy and then there was an older guy, probably retired. Very, you know, nice gentleman, knows his stuff. And that's what they're doing, probably, you know, like when they are hiring instructors and teachers, they look for somebody retired who's been in construction all their life. And this guy knows the machine, all machines. So I was hoping to get a Volvo, but there was still some issues with it, and they were not sure if it's fixed, and so they put me in the John Deere. And it's like, I wouldn't even call it medium size, but it's John Deere 444, so it's probably kind of like Cat 930. So I would call it small because it's not that heavy. The bucket, I checked the sticker on the bucket. It says 2.5 cubic yards. 2.5 cubic yards. And I was working with very soft soil, you know, just soft material. I asked the instructor how much does it weigh, because I was guessing about 2,000 pounds per cubic yard, and he says, yeah, somewhere there. So basically my full bucket in that machine, if I can load it fully, so was probably somewhere around 5,000 pounds. You know, so imagine with that machine, 5,000 pounds, if you have like a big truck that can take 40-60,000 pounds, like, it'll be a lot of buckets. But anyway, we did the pre-trip inspection. They showed me briefly like the controls, and this machine is super easy. Basically, there's no, like, you know, some machines you have to change your speed, like here, forward, reverse, right? And then there's will be like a ring in here, and it'll say 1, 2, 3, so you can change the speed. But some of them are automatic, like this one, particular one, it was in first gear, and that's what they told me. They said when you load, when you carry material, just use first gear. If you're going like a long distance, like if somewhere on the road you're driving to a destination, then you can change the gear. And so it has a steering wheel with a, you know, knob, very useful. Knob was somewhere here, I think. So left hand I was steering, right hand was kind of like, looks like this, the joystick, and everything was only like this. Like I didn't have to take my hand off, because on the joystick in the front there was 2 buttons. Top one is, I think, forward, and bottom is reverse, you know, kind of like this thing, right? Except there's 2 buttons, 1, 2, and it's like a switch, like a rocker switch, actually. Yeah, it's not a button, sorry, rocker switch. So you can, you know, push the top part in, it's gonna go forward. You push the bottom one part in, it's gonna go in reverse, and it starts beeping, of course. Or you can put it in neutral position, and just like there's a panel on the right where your parking brake is, and the machine has no key. So this would not survive very long, you know, in the open market. No key, you just push the button. There's no code, nothing. You just push the top left button, which is marked green, you know, color coded green, and then next to it is the red button. So that's how you stop the engine, right? So everything is on that little panel to your right near the window. It probably has, I don't know, 20 buttons, you know, like your 4-way flashes, your hydraulics. Oh yeah, there's a lockout, of course, lockout for hydraulics. So this guy Tony, my instructor, showed me everything. It's, you know, pretty simple. I still remember the basics, right? My biggest concern was about the bucket, you know, how do you choose the proper height? when you load, when you travel, how do you not create a trench when you just want to pick up some material, you know. And so he gave me some tips, some indicators, basically on top of the like I saw guys were showing this in YouTube videos. On top of the bucket on both sides there's like a plate, like a vertical plate, and you just look at this edge, you know, when you know, and of course it's the joystick, you know, you push it to the right, it's dump, so the bucket goes like this, right? To the left it scoops, goes like this, and pull raises the boom, push drops the boom, right? And so of course you can do both movements simultaneously. Like when I go into the pile, I start raising the boom, and then I start, you know, going this way, just curling the bucket slowly. And so because I watched so many movies on YouTube, it actually helped, you know. I was able to get full bucket quite often. And so yeah, what we did is, after we started driving, there's a big windrow, right? Like basically a huge long pile of soil over there, probably, I don't know, 2 meters tall, you know, like 6 feet. And what we did is we started creating another pile next to it. So he showed me, he did like a couple of scoops himself. Basically takes the bucket from the center of this pile, then from the corners, and drops it basically right next to it, so to create another windrow. And then when he did like 2 or 3, he says, now you go ahead. And we all have radios. They give you a 2-way radio. We all on the same channel, so you know, if they have a tip for you or something, they call you on the radio, or you can ask them a question, you know. I got like two comments from the instructor that my bucket was too high. He kept reminding me, you know, like keep my bucket low, you know, after when you empty, when you're driving, or when you even with when you have a loaded bucket. He says you have to keep it low, because you know, on a construction site, he says, you never know, there might be like if you keep it very high, there might be like a soft ground somewhere, so one wheel can go into like a pothole or something, right? And if your bucket is tall, he says that's why these guys, it's easy to flip it over. And so he kept reminding me probably like 3 times on the radio, Sergei, please keep the bucket low. And so yeah, so they let me loose. Basically, they give you the machine. So he just showed me, like I said, we did the orientation, right? We did the safety inspection, walk around, and then he showed me all these controls inside the machine, and then he did maybe 2 scoops himself, and then he says, now it's your turn. Okay. And so I did a bunch of scoops. So I tried to create a nice neat pile, a windrow. I hate that word. And then Tony says, if we have time, he says, I'll show you, after we did this, he says, I'll show you how to create a ramp. But for my for this day, you know, we have tasks, right? Like there's when you learn a machine, there's like every day you have a task. So today my task was stockpiling, right? Creating a pile of material plus orientation. Tomorrow is going to be more exciting. Tomorrow I'm loading a truck, a rock truck, and some guys were saying, because this is a small loader, it has a pretty short boom, so it cannot raise the bucket very high. And this, you know, it's a rock truck, right? They're pretty tall. But I mentioned this to Tony. He says, oh no, it's okay. He says, no problemo. So he gave me a couple of tips how he loads the truck, like starts from the front. He says you don't have to center it, you know, in the center. He says as soon as the bucket clears the side of the bed on the truck, you can start dumping. And he says just start right after the cab and then try to go, you know. And I said, when do you stop? And he says, well, as long as it doesn't spill, right? Because these are off-road trucks. You know, once you see that the material starts spilling, that's too much. But he says normally, he says I would probably take 5 or 6 buckets of this 2.5 cubic yards. But anyway, it was fun. And actually I felt pretty good. I thought I would be like feeling like an idiot. No, you know, nobody bothers you. They give you the job. Okay, take the soil from this pile, put it in this pile, right? And then when I finished, he came over a couple of times to check on me, and of course I see him walking. I put the transmission into neutral, I put the bucket down, apply the parking brake, and I wait for him, because you know you gotta be very careful, right, when people are walking around. But very cool machine, very maneuverable, turns even better than my Jeep, you know, like a U-turn. And I just got that, you know, always looking at these plates on the top of the bucket to make sure it's, you know, like level. Oh yeah, and my biggest question was, so how do you drop it till you feel it touches the ground, and what? And then you have to raise it a little bit, you know, when you scoop the material. And they look at me kind of like they don't understand it, because you know, does it have to, you know, you push it down, you push this joystick down, and okay, to make sure that the top plates are level, right? So you know that the cutting edge is parallel to the floor. But what do you do after? Can you start scooping like that, or do you have to raise it a little bit? And Tony says, no, you just drop it. So basically, you know, it's not, you don't need too much finesse with this. But then I noticed that I was leaving some dirt when I'm picking up, so it was a bit higher, right? So I see that there's material or soil left behind, you know, when I go pick it up, and I see like it's slick. And so I started experimenting with the angle of the bucket. Again, there's nobody around, like everybody, you know, like it's a huge field, right? I'm on my own, having fun with that stockpile, and there's lots of space in there, like a road, you know, like a dirt road. And so I try to tilt, basically dump, right? It's like you know, how do you tilt the bucket? You push the joystick to the right, to the dumping position. So instead of like this, it becomes like this. And what do you know? Right away, I started cutting. That blade is so sharp, and the material, the soil, is very soft. So I go like this, thinking that I'm gonna, you know, clean up the mess I left before. And then I turn around, I look at what I did, and there's like this deep trench. Man, I started getting some dirt in, dumping there, you know, trying to make it level. And then I, you know, just keeping the bucket, just dumped some soil in there, and then keeping the bucket low, just went over it like a bulldozer, right? And then I remember the trick I saw on YouTube, how they can actually flatten the ground like a grader, but you have to reverse, right? And so I put the bucket like this at an angle, and I reversed. And at first I didn't do a very good job, but then by the end I did this like 10-15 times. I became better, you know. Like the trick, of course, is to find the proper angle, not too sharp, not too shallow. And so when we did that pile, Tony came over. He says, okay, now put everything back. Like, what? So that's why they charge so much money, you know, because but of course I'm joking, but it's kind of like funny, right? So you just for the sake of training, you know, you do this self-canceling task, right? You create second pile, and you put it back, and of course then they say, okay, now we don't have time for building a ramp today. Just, he says, clean up, make sure that you don't have any loose soil, you know, like fresh soil that, you know, fell off the bucket. So clean up. So I probably spent like half an hour cleaning up, making sure that everything went back and nothing is left. And then again I used this bulldozing grading trick in reverse, and made sure the ground was, you know, nice and level. So I don't know, like, so I did I see this, so they gave us these logbooks, logbook. Yeah, reminds me of something. So heavy equipment operator school, operator logbook. And what you do here is they just give you some tips in here on something with hazard assessments, and then here you just, you know, write like this: machine type and size. So I wrote loader JD 444, duties stockpiling, hours 5, date, and my initials. And what they're saying is that this is useful when you're looking for work, you know, because of course you can, you know, fake this, right? But I really did maybe just slightly less than 5 hours, and I'm telling you, by the end I felt pretty good, you know. And I learned how not to spill too much, you know, like when you scoop the material, like first raising the boom and then curling the bucket to make it full, and then when it's up you just touch the joystick a couple of times to, you know, to shake it, right? So that it's, otherwise you're gonna lose a bunch of soil on the way back. So I learned that, how to shake the bucket. Sergei, keep the bucket low. Okay, as soon as I back from that, I have to bring it down. And so yeah, so my first time in the machine as a operator, you know, not as a trucking guy who loads them on the. And I told him, he says, what's your background? I said, I was in trucking. I said, I know the basic controls on most of these machines, but I said I never used them for work. I only drove in pretty much in a straight line on the trailer and then off the trailer, right? I said, hey, I had my own business at the IGN trailer. Because I think he was a bit surprised that I was able to do this. He says, this is your first day? I said, yeah. But I said I drove them before, again, only to load and unload on the truck. So I think it did help, you know. It does help when you know the basics. And so now I only had some nuts. It's some pistachio kernels. I think it's a mistake. And the nearest McDonald's is 10 minutes away. And time now is 12:15. And I was here at 10 before 12, and I thought, shall I drive back to town? But then, you know, 10 minutes one way, 10 minutes the other way, then you can wait for your food for 10-15 minutes, then 15-20 minutes to eat. And I just didn't feel like, you know, rushing. So just gonna wait maybe another 10-15 minutes. And so basically, yeah, now I have a classroom. 1 o'clock, 1 to 3, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. I have a classroom. So I feel pretty good. First 5 hours in the actual machine. So tomorrow is gonna be even more advanced, like stockpiling, right? It's easy. There's nobody around. You just pick up sand or soil in this case and drop it somewhere. And he was also telling me, you know, be very careful. Like when you're at a construction site, he says, be careful, especially when you load it. You know, always wear the seat belt because these machines can be unstable. And he says, you know, very dangerous if you come close to, like if they're excavating something and you come close to that, because the ground can be soft there, you know, near the hole, and you can just fall, you know, tip over, fall down. So, you know, it is dangerous. These are still, even though it's a small machine, but it's way bigger than a car or a pickup truck. So basically you have to have your wits about you, and of course be fully rested, be sober, you know. He was telling me how basically if somebody on your team and you feel that they're not 100%, he says it's in your interest, in your best interest, is to talk to the supervisor. Yeah, then I bet you'll develop a real friendships with people if you start, you know, reporting on them. But he was telling us a story how when he was working in construction, this guy Tony, he says one of the supervisors showed up, and he said he could smell alcohol on him, and he was, you know, not in good condition. And so he went over and he talked to him. He says, maybe you should go home, you know, call in sick. And that guy went away, and then he says for some reason hour and a half later he came back and he didn't look any better. So he went to talk to him again, and then that supervisor went to his supervisor, like the general manager, and he says, people don't want to work with me, I think I should go home. And so what they did, they busted him, like the expression Tony used, he says, they took away his white hat. Because, you know, most you know, supervisors, they wear white hats. That's how you know if somebody's a boss, right? Like you see, like mine is orange, right? Or it can be any color, but when it's white, it's a supervisor. And so they took away his white hat. That's what happened. So anyway, the weather's good, and this time I did not book a hotel, because last time I used Priceline, but last week I discovered a hotel. You know, sometimes like small hotels, they're not on Priceline, and so you have to book there directly. And so the one I paid for those 3 days or 4 days last week, I think it was like over 70 bucks Canadian, you know, a day. And here I saw a hotel, like a small one, but lots of cars around it, looks good, you know. And there was a big sign in the front, it said either 50 bucks or 55 bucks, something like that, like basically 20 bucks cheaper a day. And so my plan is to go there after we've done with the classroom. I go there and try to check in, and then first of course I have to go have lunch, very late lunch, probably at 3:30, and then I'm gonna play my accordion, and then maybe 5 or 6 p.m. I'll do some exercises with my kettlebell and with my weight plates. And tomorrow, Tuesday, I was supposed to run today, you know, jog, but then I would have to get up at 3 o'clock, so I'm gonna do it tomorrow. So I have to be here again at 6:45, but because I'm like 8 kilometers away in this Innisfail, so I can probably get up at maybe 5, then go for a run, yeah, then take a shower. Yeah, so basically, yeah, the next week it's all machine time in the morning, then 1 hour break, and then classroom 1 to 3, and then Saturday, Sunday, and that's why I cannot go back to Calgary. That's why I have to get the hotel for 2 weeks. Saturday, Sunday we're doing what is called you know, first aid course. It's like a certification or safety ticket, right? So you have to know what to do if, you know, if somebody gets sick or something, or is injured at a job site, right? It's your responsibility as a construction guy. You have to know these things, you know, how to keep people alive probably until the ambulance shows up. What else? Well, not much happened. I'm talking to a guy, still trying to, you know, since I'm trying to put some money in my bank account, so I was thinking of, you know, again selling my Dino Buffetti accordion, right, and just getting a cheaper one, because you can get one for like $1,000 bucks, whereas this one was 6,500 Canadian. And there's a guy in Mississauga who's interested, but he has a collection of accordions, so we're talking, maybe we can do an exchange, but he doesn't want to pay me cash for this one because he didn't work for 2 years himself. So anyway, just trying to figure out something. And I'm not doing that car photography anymore, right? Because it's just a waste of time. So now it's basically my focus is on the training, learning the machine to the best of my abilities. And I think 50 hours, you know, that's a lot. And every day I'll be doing different tasks, right? So today was stockpiling, tomorrow it's loading a truck, and then after that it's going to be, you know, like backfilling, when you fill the trench with dirt, soil, whatever material. There's a bunch of other tasks, you know, like all real practical jobs, exactly what I may be asked to do at the construction site, you know. So it's very nice. It's not like classroom, you know, where when you read books and watch videos on a TV. No, it's actual real training, you know. I like this. So anyway, that's all my news for today. Probably better go get ready for the class. See you guys. Thanks for watching.